What's up, guys? It's Casual Yu-Gi-Oh! Here, coming at you guys with another deck profile. Today we're going to be looking over my Lightsworn deck. This deck, one of my favorite decks, one of the first ones I made whenever I was getting back into the game, and it's come a long ways, so let's get into it. Alright, for starters, since it's pure Lightsworns, you're going to run triple Lumina. You're going to run triple Raiden. And if you guys don't know, Lumina, you discard one, and she summons. You discard one card out of your hand. It can be any card, and she special summons a Lightsworn out of the graveyard. And you basically, as long as you have a target in the graveyard, you can even summon the card that you just discarded. Raiden is a bit of a play starter because he has an effect when he's summoned, well, anytime as long as he's on the field. Once per turn, you can mill 2 cards off the top of your deck. Now, this is one that not a lot of people do. I do run one Garoth. I like him because for one, it's just another Lightsworn name, and on top of that, as long as he's on the field and you're milling stuff, so like if you have Raiden on the field and you mill, he will always mill 2, and that's not once per turn. It happens every single time. And then when you do mill, whatever he mills, if there's any Lightsworn monsters in there, you'll draw 1 card for each one. So you can continually mill and continually draw cards potentially. So because of that, I like him. I understand why that some people don't like him, but I think as a one-of, I think he's perfectly fine. And then I do run the one Minerva. She's nice to just kind of keep getting through things. Her main thing is that when she's sent to the graveyard from the field, not from the field, from the hand or deck, she mills 1 additional card. So it just kind of helps. It helps you kind of keep your plays moving. And then for the hand bricks, you run triple Wolf and double Fearless. Whenever these guys are milled from the deck, sent from the deck to the graveyard, they will special summon themselves. Wolf, at any time he's sent from the deck to the graveyard. Fearless only by a monster effect. And then Fearless does have the added bonus of when she's on the field, you can tribute her, target a monster your opponent controls, and destroy it, and then you mill 3 cards. So if your opponent has something troublesome on the field, you can out it with that. And then a lot of people, I know for a while they didn't run Judgment Dragons. I've always kept it in. I've always liked Judgment Dragon, and I mean, he's really never dead. He's never actually going to be dead in your hand. I mean, unless you just get negated, unless everything gets like negated or something, he's never really going to be dead. It's extremely easy to get through, 4 Lightsworns in your graveyard, and then he can bomb the field for 1,000 life points, and I mean, you can end a game pretty quickly with Judgment Dragon. So I like him as a boss monster, and honestly, I think that's something that the deck really needs, is to have a good boss monster on hand, because I mean, otherwise you just kind of mill things out, and it's like, well, you can kind of link summon a lot. Before it used to be a lot of like rank 4 Ixie spam, but especially with where the deck is now, I think having a good boss monster is just really, really important. And then the next one's pretty big engine. This is the Brilliant Fusion engine. Even though Brilliant Fusion is at 1.
Not what it used to be.
It's not quite what it used to be, but we run the 1 Brilliant Fusion, and I run Tourmaline. Tourmaline just because he was cheap at the time. It doesn't really matter which one you use. But then, to get it, we run triple Lone Fire. Remember, if you have Lone Fire, you always summon the Lone Fire, and you always go through all 3 of them. Always. After that, we run 3 Orpus Scorpio, and we use that to get to this guy. I don't know his Cobra. This guy. and that'll search out this. So it actually, I actually wasn't running this engine before because I didn't feel like you really needed it. But because Brilliant Fusion's at 1 and Snow's gone, starting the game with Brilliant Fusion is now more important than ever. So you need to have as many ways to get to it as possible. After that, you have the performages, and what's really nice is that, I mean, obviously most people should know this, if you're familiar with the deck, is with Brilliant Fusion you can actually dump your Trick Clown, and the Trick Clown will immediately just summon itself back for 1,000 life points. Alternatively, if you have depending on what your hand is, you can even send the Damage Juggler, banish the Damage Juggler, and then search the Hat Tricker if you want to go for that. That is actually an option. And that would be more for like if you had a Glow Up Bulb or something, because then you can go into like a Nat Beast or something like that, because he is an Earth.
How easily can you make an A-Star Synchro in that deck?
I mean, A-Star Synchros are pretty easy to make, but I think that the 7-star Synchros in general just give better utility for what the deck does.
I don't remember if I showed it to you, there's a Blackwing Dragon that's an 8-star generic, I think, that just says, if you take damage while he's on the field, you can activate the effect to send 5 cards from your deck to the graveyard.
That's not bad.
Right.
I might look into that.
I looked into it with zombies, but you might be able to do it better. The other thing I was going to say, sorry, I don't want to distract you. I don't think it's the case anymore because obviously Brilliant Fusion, the whole engine has dropped down in price, I believe, because people don't play as much. But me and you were in perfect agreement on the fact that like when people were paying like over, what was it, $10, $12, $15 for a Garnet, and we're like, guys, what are you doing? Can we talk about that real quick?
Sure. We're gonna derail things here a little bit. So, I'm sure a lot of you guys were probably around whenever a Garnet was like $10, $15, because like the Brilliant Fusion was used that much. A lot of people bought Garnet because they were like, well, Garnet has the highest attack power, so naturally you want to use him. But the main problem with that is you never want to summon your Garnet. Even if you draw it, you don't want to summon it. You literally never want to draw it, and you never want to have to play it. So, what difference does it make if he has the highest attack points? I mean, it's a moot point at this point. Like,
it basically comes down to the fact that like, is 300 extra attack worth $15?
I think Tourmaline might actually be more expensive now because he's a Thunder.
I know he's fine as a Thunder, but I think most people, they use Amber. I use Amber.
Oh, do they?
Because it's if you set it face down, it's considered an effect monster. It is a Gemini, but it's considered an effect monster face down, which means you can use it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I already showed you guys, but I do run one Glow Bulb because it's a level 1 tuner that if he's milled, it doesn't matter. So the main idea is that you can always get him. I mean, you can only do it once per game, but you can mill the card off the top of your deck, which that alone is good, and then he special summons himself, and then you can synchro summon. Typically, you're going to use that, which I mean, I'll go into the extra deck pretty soon, but typically you're going to use that for there's only like 2 synchros that you're really using that for, but I mean, it's still, they're power plays, so it's still good to have. This one, I think this is getting more popular, but the Exodius, the Ultimate Forbidden one, I really like this card because it kind of resets your deck. So the way this card works is, in order to special summon him, you have to send every monster in your graveyard back to your deck. So basically, you can completely mill yourself out, and then you just special summon him, and all your monsters go back. Everything from the extra deck, everything from the main deck, it all just shuffles back into the deck. Now, he'll be sitting there at, 0 attack, 0 defense, because you don't have any normal monsters in your graveyard, but that's not really, that doesn't matter. You can link it away or do whatever you want with it. Him himself does not matter. The idea is that you can cycle all of your monsters back, and that's just really, really, really useful, especially with how fast you'll usually go through your deck. a lot of times you'll mill him anyway, but having him as an option is definitely worthwhile. I can understand if you want to run him at 2 just so you can actually draw him. I don't necessarily think he's important enough to run 2 though. For our spells, besides Brilliant Fusion, because we already went through that, we have triple Solar Recharge and triple Charge of the Light Brigade.
What charge or 2? Put it back.
Charge is at 3, so no matter what charge is at, you always max it out. Same with Solar Recharge. They're just way too good. They generate too much advantage. Charge being you mill 3, and then you add 1 of your Lightsworns from your deck to your hand. I think it's level 4 or lower. Yeah. Level 4 or lower, that's something you forget a lot because you don't really run the higher level ones anymore. And then Solar Recharges, you discard 1 Lightsworn monster, you draw 2, and then you mill 2. That's actually a really important detail that a lot of people, I see people mess up on all the time. It's you draw, then you mill. Draw, then mill. I actually saw somebody just the other day using my deck, and he kept doing it backwards, and like that really affects, like, you know, what you're milling, what you're drawing, things like that. So that's kind of a big deal to remember. Now we have all the 1-ofs. We run Foolish for, I feel like, pretty obvious reasons. You can dump your Wolf, you can dump your
Lumina target.
Yeah, I mean, just there's a lot of stuff. There's the amount of stuff the amount of just advantage you can get out of it. I run 1 Metal Foes Fusion. The nice thing about Metal Foes Fusion is that it's pretty much it's always live. It's always good. If you draw it, it's not a big deal because you can just Lumina. You can use Lumina's effect to discard it, and then you can use its effect to draw 1 card. And so it's always beneficial to you. I run Card Destruction. Card Destruction is one that's it's kind of weird because a lot of times when I have it in my hand, I don't really care to use it. So it's a bit of a weird one, but like sometimes it's really good and sometimes it just kind of sits there in your hand. But I think it's still good enough that it's worth running, especially as a 1-of, because you're only going to draw it every now and then. We run the 1 Monster Reborn.
Gross.
I mean, it's Monster Reborn.
Gross. Look at it.
Monster Reborn is obviously going to be nice because you're milling so many monsters, and so you can you use it as a play extender for the most part. I run 1 Double Summon. Double Summon's kind of nice because, like, you can use, I mean, it's Brilliant Fusion without all of the extra stuff, and it stacks with Brilliant Fusion, which can be really handy. I don't think I've ever actually drawn the card because I've milled it every single time, but it's nice to have as an option. And then I have my 1 Regeki.
But why though?
Because Regeki. And I think every time I've ever been made to go second, I have opened Regeki. So it's pretty cool. That's not a joke. That is completely serious. Alright, for the extra deck, naturally you run your 1 Seraphonite because you run Brilliant Fusion. For our Ixies monsters, I run 1 Tsukiyomi. Tsukiyomi is pretty nice because a lot of times you'll have 1 or 2 cards in your hand that just aren't particularly useful. So you can get rid of those and just draw 2 new cards. So it's just kind of, it's basically free advantage because of how easy it is to make rank 4s and to burn through your hand anyway. Just keep in mind you have to have at least 1 card in your hand. I run 2 Minervas. I actually tried 1 Minerva for a little while, and anytime you have 2, you're only ever going to use 1 until you take 1 out, and then you're always going to need 2. I don't know why this is, but that's just how it works. So always run 2.
Best card in your extra deck, right?
It is basically the best card there. And then I run 1 Tornado Dragon. Tornado Dragon is just nice because, it gets rid of back row. You don't necessarily need to run Tornado Dragon, but it's nice to have the option. And then I run Nat Beast. So the way you summon out Nat Beast, if you guys have forgotten, if I can find the cards, basically you do Glow Up Bulb, and Hat Tricker. And that's how you summon that beast. And then we have FA Dragster for just some... I think it only negates spells.
Spells or traps.
Spells, traps, and their effects. But just decent negation to have, so like if your opponent makes you go first, which that's another thing. This deck can go second if you need it to, because it's pretty good at OTKing. I run 1 Black Rose. I'm not sure about keeping the Black Rose. There's that new... I'm thinking about replacing him with that new level 4 that just came out. The Time Thief level 4, the rank 4 Time Thief. Just because of like, he's good advantage. That's a card I would recommend. I don't have him yet, so I don't have him in here. But that's a card I would very much recommend. I run 1 Michael, mainly for you can pay 1,000 life points and banish anything off the field. It does target though. I run a Crystal Wing. Crystal Wing is basically just anytime you have a level 7 and you have access to Glow Up Bulb, you can always make Crystal Wing. Our camera's not really focusing as much as I'd like. And then I run 1 Trish, and that's it for our synchros. In case you guys don't know, the way you summon Trish is as long as you have... Sorry about that.
It's cool.
So the way you summon that is just you play out, if you have access to Lumina, you can play out Lumina, and then you can go into your level 3 Minerva, and that's 9 levels. So if you've never thought about that, it's pretty good play. That was something that was pointed out to me. I'd never thought about it. Just never crossed my mind. It's an extremely good play. And then for our Link monsters, Landfrinches? I don't know how to say it. But he's nice because when you do your Brilliant Fusion search, you are left with, you do your whole search, and then you've got 2 level 3 monsters. You can't really do anything with them. You immediately just go into this, and then you activate your Brilliant Fusion because you just have 2 monsters. I run Nightmare of Cerberus. Main reason I play him over the other nightmares because he still only takes 2 monsters, and he gets rid of a monster on the field. So just having that extra monster removal is nice to have. And then I run Curious. Curious is just, it's good card advantage. Dumps a card from the deck, and then anytime a card is dumped from the deck, you get to mill 3, including himself. So whenever he enters, it's 1 card you want, and then 3 random cards. And then Saryuja. Your main thing that you want to do whenever you start the game is you want to get Brilliant Fusion, and then you want to play Saryuja. And from there, you just... it kind of comes down to whatever you can get out onto the board. However many negates you can get out and things like that. Depending on what you're playing against, you might not want to burn through too terribly many resources, because once you burn through those, if your opponent does happen to board clear you, you're screwed. Like, there's nothing you cannot recover from that. So keep that in mind.
Enjoy Saryuja while you can. He ain't gonna be around for very much longer, because there's literally decks that are just called Saryuja this.
I still think that he'll stick around at 1. But we'll see. But yeah, that's it for the deck profile. Hope you guys liked it, and we'll see you in the next one.
Peace out.